my steering wheel buttons do not really work after the fact. What we have in front of us is the wiring diagram. I think I know what happened. Hey guys, in the last video we talked about doing a compression test as the next step. In the meantime, I went for an airbag recall to a local dealership. They did replace the airbag, but I observed some minor damage at the bottom of the steering wheel. And I also saw that my steering wheel buttons do not really work after the fact. Dealership offered some help in the end, but they were hard to convince, and they tried to convince me that these problems are unrelated because the steering wheel controls and anything else is not in the area where the airbag is, which I think is a little bit ridiculous because they are centimeters apart. Now, there were some rude moments from their side during this conversation, and I wasn't really feeling comfortable following up on their offer in the end, and I decided to do this myself. I also want to say that mistakes are always possible. We all make them every day, but how we fix them is what really defines the situation and the relationship we have. So in the end of the day, I wasn't really feeling comfortable with the whole process, how it went, and this is why I think that doing this myself is preferable. And one of the reasons for these videos is also that to enable other people, if they run into those issues and they have no alternative, to actually do this themselves. So let's focus on fixing the steering wheel buttons, and any damage on the steering wheel is minor and can be addressed a bit later. All right, so fixing the issue. Now, whenever we want to fix something, we should be knowing a few things about it. The first thing to know are the steps to reproduce. The easier the issue to reproduce, in my opinion, it's also easier to fix, or at least easier to properly diagnose. And after fixed, it's easier to verify the fix. Now, this is not the only thing we should know. We should also know the expected behavior and observed behavior, so we can compare them. But let me show you how this looks on this very, very simple thing that we have in front of us. So we have a very easily reproducible situation here. If I press any of these buttons over here, the cluster or the information on the cluster here should change. And if I do that, nothing really happens. So it's a very easy thing to reproduce. Also, if I press any of these buttons, nothing really happens. Now, I also mentioned expected behavior and observed behavior. And of course, expected behavior here, it's very easy to understand and to know. But if we dive just a little bit deeper, there are some more information we can also gain from this situation. So for example, if I turn on the lights on my car, the cluster lights up, but there is no light over here, and I know that this should happen from the experience because I own the car. But even if I would need to fix that, manual or the workshop manual, for example, would contain that information. So here on this side, if I, for example, focus on it for a moment, you will see that nothing is lit up, and I also turn off my light, so it's completely dark. So there is no power coming here at all, which is also an important finding. Another thing that's also kind of relevant is that on the bottom right corner, you can see the voice control button. On this car, this is not really equipped, and this is supposed not to work. And now we have the real expected behavior, and we can compare it to what we observe, which is basically that nothing really works. So in that regard, this issue is fairly straightforward. So in this step, we are collecting some general information about the issue we have. Every car has its own diagnostic output, which we can use to kind of see what's going on with the car. And for this particular issue, I want to see if there are any codes stored for the steering wheel controls or something along these lines. For that, we can use any OBD tool to scan for codes. I use the OBD11. You can get any other one. If not, you can go to a local mechanic or a part shop, and they should be able also to do a scan for you. Let's do a quick scan. Now, it's also possible we get other codes that are not relevant to us, but we don't have too many, so it's not going to be a problem to kind of go through them. We have something for the engine, which is a steering wheel angle sensor module thingy, not really related to what we have. Brakes, central electrics, remote key. And then in the gateway, we have a hard fault that there is no communication with the steering wheel control unit. And this is actually what's relevant to us. Now, I want to do something. I want to clear all the issues. And then rescanning for codes. Okay, the faults are all cleared, and you can see the only remaining fault is the control unit in the steering wheel. I am definitely 99% sure that this is related to the issue we have. So let's learn how the system works. Now the issue is rather simple, but this type of approach is going to prevent us from doing anything we don't want and also prevent us from replacing any parts we don't want. What we have in front of us is the wiring diagram that's essential for understanding how the electrical system such as we have now works. The wiring diagrams can be obtained in different ways. I did a lot of research, contacted a few people, but you can also visit a website called Erwin, ERWIN, and download diagrams from there. You pay for a membership, like an hour or a day or more, and then download all the materials you need for your car. It's a really good source of information. Those diagrams, though, cannot be redistributed without a license. Keep that in mind. Now, the diagram in front of us doesn't have too many details. A lot of it is omitted, but it's enough to tell us how things work and identify any areas where we need to do some investigation or more work. So let's dive right into it. So whenever we look at the wiring diagram, the first thing I try to do is to identify where is the positive, where is the negative side of the circuit. In this case, we have the positive marked as plus here, and we know that conventional current, at least in theory, says that the current flows in the circuit from the positive towards the negative side. Now, this is not really the case in reality, but it's perfectly fine to use it in our case, as many other professional electricians do. Now, we have the plus sign and the red wire coming from it. And then we have the SA and SC boxes. These are the fuse holders. There is a third one, SB as well. But here I only have the fuses and the boxes that are relevant to us. We have only one fuse that's relevant in the first box, which is a big 125 amp fuse, and the wire goes to the second fuse, which is the SC41, which is 1 amp fuse. So I was just about to show you how would I check the fuse that powers the multifunctional control unit, but unfortunately the fuse that I thought is being used on this car is not there. The diagram I was looking in is not 100% correct for this version of the car. This is 2016. I may have looked for the 2013 or something along these lines. So back to the drawing board. Now, I don't think this fuse is the problem, but I will explain just in a bit why I think that is the case. Now we have the yellow-red wire going to the J527 unit, which is a steering column electronics unit. I don't know exactly where this unit is. I think somewhere around the steering wheel. To this unit, we have several things attached. We have the airbag control unit, and we have the ignition. Now, we don't have any codes for airbag control unit. We don't have any issues with it, and I don't think that this is relevant to our issue. Therefore, I haven't added many more details here or researched this further, because if the airbag would be failing, we would definitely have a code for it, and it would be like a hard fault, probably also dedicated a lamp on the dash or things of that nature. But the ignition here is connected to the horn, and we know that the horn works. Actually, I tried it out and I know it works. So until this point, we are good. In between the J527 and the horn, we also have F350, which is some type of coil connector. I don't know what that actually is, but it's, I think, just some type of connector, and that's it. And from this guy we have a ground going to several points in the car. I laid all of it out in the list on the right side here. Now from the horn we have a brown wire, which is a ground wire, the negative side, going to the J453, and this is exactly the steering wheel control unit where we have the code for. And this wire is one of the candidates for being problematic and causing the issue. Also, we have the black wire, which is a positive. Usually the black is positive. There are other colors used, but brown is I think almost always negative. And we also have the purple white wire, which is LIN. Now, LIN is the communication or one of the communication protocols used in the car, and the thing is that this can also be a problem. But we don't have any light working for any of our controls, and I think probably some of these wires like a power or the ground, are the first things to check, and then the link bus. Now, this may not be exactly the core of our issue because we also see 4 other wires, but that are leading to the steering wheel buttons, and those are exactly the problems where we have them. But I researched a little bit, and I think those are internal connections that we cannot really affect, or at least only one of them would be affected, the other one wouldn't. But we will have more time to prove where exactly the problem is. So from what I see here, I'm thinking that the brown wire, the black wire are the first thing to check, because this unit is actually what we have the code for, and then continue from there. Now I want to test the fuse. The fuse I want to test is this SC9. It's a light brown fuse with the 5 amps on it. So there are a few ways I can do this. So essentially the fuse, as the way I think about it, is a piece of wire precisely measured to kind of melt after the current reaches a certain threshold. So 5 amps in this case. And I can take it out and measure continuity, whether there is a connection between the two connection points of the fuse. But there are cases also where you can still have the connection, the fuse appears to be healthy, but there are issues with the fuse itself when the current is actually flowing through it. And I want to check that while the circuit is live in the car, so we have the ignition on and the current is flowing through the fuse. This means at the moment, if I connect my voltmeter to the 2 points of the fuse, I'm going to get 0 volts because the current is flowing through it. So the voltage, or the difference in the potential difference, is 0. But if I connect one of the connectors to the chassis of the car, which is then connected to the negative side of the battery, I will be able to measure the voltage between those 2 points. And if both points show 12 volts, that means there is enough potential between there is basically a path from both points to the negative side of the battery, ensuring that the fuse is functional. So I'll try that first. Then what I also want to measure, I can do this using voltmeter. I can also do this using a different probe for this, which I'm going to show in a minute. And you can see that I already have the voltmeter set up, and I already have one of the probes of the voltmeter connected to the chassis of the car. There is a small metal part where I can connect this. And let me try this. So one of the probes of the voltmeter will now go to one of the sides of the fuse, and then you can see the voltage showing approximately 12 volts. Yep, 11.84. There is no maintainer connected, and there is a second point. We have also 12 volts, so this is already good. Now we can try to do this same thing with this probe. As you can see, so it's a very cheap one. You can buy it anywhere. It's made for 12 volts. In this case, and I can see this here, and you should see it light up when you can see the light, and the second connection point, you can clearly see the light. So the fuse appears to be functional. Now one more test is left. I already told you if I connect these probes of the voltmeter directly to the connectors of the fuse when the circuit is live, I'm going to get 0 volts. And that is exactly how it should be, but in some cases it isn't. When you connect this to the fuse that has a current flowing through it and you get some voltage, that means that there is a potential difference between the 2 points, meaning that basically there is some resistance through the fuse. Some energy is being spent for the current when the current is flowing through it. And this is usually not a good sign, because there means that the connection exists in the fuse, so there is continuity, but at the same time this connection is not the best. Either the fuse is partially burnt, or maybe there is another problem from the factory with the fuse, and this can cause some issues. So I'll just do a quick measurement and basically connect these probes to both sides of the fuse. You're not going to be able to see it best, but you can take a look at the voltmeter and you will see the voltage there. And if it shows 0 or close to 0, we are good. If it shows some kind of a drop, then we will have to kind of investigate further. And you can see we have an extremely small value of like less than a millivolt, which is almost perfect. So it is extremely important to disconnect the battery, because we are going to be working with the steering wheel, removing the airbag, and there is a chance we can actually accidentally activate the airbag. This can hurt us if the airbag inflates accidentally when we don't expect it and when we are not in the right position in the car. Now, to disconnect the battery, the thing to know is that we should first always disconnect the negative terminal. If we disconnect the positive terminal, what we are risking is our tool, like a metal tool, basically touching the positive terminal and the metal on the car, and that can create a short because the negative terminal is connected to the chassis of the car as well. So let's move on with that. So the negative terminal in this case has a cover. I remove it, then use the 10mm socket. At this point, we want to remove the airbag. So to do this on this car, it is relatively simple. We need to turn the steering wheel left because in the back of the steering wheel, the part that's not visible when the steering wheel is straight, there is a latch to disconnect which holds the airbag. The latch exists on the both sides, and you need to turn the steering wheel on both sides to actually do this. Now let me try to turn the steering wheel and then we will remove the airbag. Okay, now we see the latch that holds the airbag. There are two on both sides of the steering wheel. And in order to unlatch this, we will need something like a screwdriver. I have kind of a Phillips screwdriver with a little bit of electrical tape that I used just not to damage anything. But just keep in mind there is not too much space here, so you need something relatively short, and maybe a flat screwdriver would be a good thing here. So let's try to unlatch this now. Okay, now with one side unlatched, we need to turn the steering wheel all the way to the other side, where we have the other latch we have to unlock. Okay, so now we have the complete airbag unlocked, and I will slowly pull it out carefully so that we can observe what is inside. Here we can see all the wires going to the airbag, so that seems completely fine. We don't have any error codes there. We have the airbag connector, which has the wires coming to the airbag, and then we also see the wires going to the connector for the steering wheel controls. And also we can see the wires going all over here to the from one side of the connector to the other side of the connector here on the right side. Now, I can guess from what I see here that this part over here is okay, so there must be an issue right over here because both sides do not work, and this side is for the communication between the two. So my assumption is that whatever comes to this side is the problem, and we can take a bit of a deeper look in there. So I did a little bit of prep here so that we can see a little bit easier what's going on. And as I said before, this is the wire that comes from the airbag connector and goes right into the steering wheel controls. And these are the airbag wires. When I check these wires over here, they go right into steering wheel controls. So I will try to unplug and plug this wire again. So let me try that. Okay, this was easy. So let's check the wire now just to see if everything is 100% as it should be. Okay, on one side of the connector you can see the plastic piece that's missing, and that is essentially broken. So basically, I don't know how probably when they were putting an airbag in, they kind of pushed it in too hard or something. And also there is a small chip in the electrical isolation of the purple wire, but not enough to kind of cause any issues because the I don't think isolation is completely pierced. So I'm not sure if this connector is still working. So I'm gonna see what we can do about that. Now I want to do like just a quick sanity check that this cable is okay. So I have a bit of a setup here where I reconnected the battery and I have a few probes I can use to measure this. The cable has 3 wires. Brown is the ground, black should be power. We expect 12 volts to see there in this case, and I have the purple, which is data. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that I can measure that reliably because that voltage should usually fluctuate depending on if the commands are sent. So I'll focus only on the power and the ground here. I also have the multimeter setup, and you can use much better probes than I have and everything, but this is, just me trying things out and see what results do I get. And I'll now put one probe to the ground. So as I said, there are much better probes for these things that allow you to have some of your hands free. And now we are measuring, and you can see we have 11.96. The battery doesn't have any maintainer on it, so we have the power here as we expected to. The negative is because I reversed the black and red probe here. All right, guys, so I think I know what happened. So what you can see here in front is the plastic piece from the connector that was missing. Basically, what I think happened is that as the new airbag was pushed in, they accidentally kind of clipped the connector a little bit because it is here on the left side, and pulled it out just enough, not to completely be pulled out, but enough not to have a good contact, or it was pulled out completely and it was not plugged in back properly. So what I have done is I made sure the connector is plugged back in properly. I checked the wires, there is no damage. So I think with this, the issue should be resolved. I actually tried plugging out this connector a little bit more, and it was a little bit more difficult than initially when I first time plugged it out. And I think because of that, definitely this was not plugged in all the way in. So this is pretty straightforward. Let's see whether it works. Let's put back the airbag first, and then let's reconnect the battery. So let's put the airbag slowly back in. Very carefully not to damage anything. And now the two latches need to latch. Carefully, evenly push on it. Great. All right, guys, so the airbag is back, the battery is reconnected, and we can try the fix now. So let's turn on the ignition. We can already see the light is back, which is great. And I can also try pressing those buttons and see if anything changes in the middle of the cluster. So at the moment I have some warnings after battery is being reconnected, which is perfectly normal. We will reset those shortly. And I can try pressing a few buttons, and I can already see things working as they should. On the left side, I have also a few options that I can choose from, which is also very nice, and everything works as it should. So let's go scan for codes again, clear them all up, and see whether the car's computer is also happy with the fix. Okay, now we want to rescan the car for codes. There is a lot of warnings we are getting on the dash. after reconnecting the battery, which is normal. But to be sure, we will rescan the car, clean all the codes, and check whether any of the codes are still set, especially the code for the steering wheel control unit. Okay, we have some codes in. So voltage too low, signal errors, that type of thing. We can also see that the gateway is still reporting control unit and steering wheel, no communication. But now I don't think it's a permanent code anymore because it's not red here. So let's clear them all out and see what happens. Okay, you can still see some errors present, but the control unit for the steering wheel error is not there anymore, so the fix is perfect. Now the errors we still have are the leftovers from when we disconnected the battery. We also worked with the steering wheel a lot, so the steering wheel angle sensor needs to be reset. And we can see that because majority of the errors are about the steering wheel sensor and the problems related to it. So to reset the steering wheel angle sensor, we need to turn on the engine, turn the steering wheel to the right and to the left, holding it briefly on both sides, back to the center. And that we need to repeat until the warning lights on our cluster go off. Those will be for the electronic stability control. I also got a park assist error, which I never had on my car to begin with. So we can see the traction control light and the tire pressure monitoring sensor. Those systems are interconnected, sharing data between each other. So let's try to the left. So right to the right. Okay, now we have the you can clearly see all the warning lights are off and the steering wheel angle sensor is properly reset. Now, when I perform this reset already, I will now reset or clear the codes again. So let's rescan again. Zero faults found. So the fix is perfect, everything is good, and now time to test drive the car. Hey guys, the test drive was perfect, there are no issues, and everything works as it should. I'm super glad I was able to do this fix, and I hope this video also helps someone else. In case you have any questions, post them in the comments, and check out the description. I will leave a lot of details there, wiring diagrams, tools, and so on. Until the next one. Ciao!